Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Already 100 participants. I think we have reached the top of our limit right now. That is why we are streaming live on Facebook also. Ajay bhai, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Very clear. Very clear.
I have admitted all the participants, but we are 100 and I think 26 are still waiting. I don't know how many will be able to join us. Okay.
How did you block the
Pranam
video?
to everybody.
Can we
I'm
have
going
everybody
to
else on mute? Can we have everybody else on mute? Ashish, can we have everybody else on?
today what we are going to do is share the thought process that I have shared with myself within the entire last 5 months about COVID and its associated things. And now, as we are facing a point where we will reintroduce ourselves
Please mute.
a new environment, we have learned how to live with. So,
can you
I'm
please
going to
mute
share
everyone?
whatever is my wisdom, which I have gathered over the years of my practice. Beginning with a very, very small understanding, and that is we are coexisting on the planet Earth.
Ashish
Ashish
bhai,
bhai, please
samrat
mute
ho
everybody.
nahi.
This
Mute
is
everyone. Mute everyone, Ashish
human
bhai.
beings.
Can't hear. Can't hear.
Can you hear us?
No.
No,
No,
you'll have
no.
to mute
You have to
everybody
mute
else.
everyone.
Okay. I have muted all the participants now, and the participants will not be able to mute them. Can you hear me now? Is there any disturbance? I have muted all the participants. Okay, perfect. That's great.
Good.
So, Pranam, let us begin. I'm going to share a little bit of wisdom which I have garnered over these many years. And what I'm going to share is something where we learn how to live and work in an environment where we have COVID-19, or for that matter, any other biologically active organism. A small bit of understanding that we are looking at is on this earth, whatever has been done by the human being to the rest of the species have threatened a lot of species, and we never knew what actually happened to those species or what do they think about it. Today the tables have reversed and we are in a situation whereby we think that humanity is in danger. Actually, what is important for us to understand is that if all of us want to sustain ourselves in Mother Earth's lab, we will have to see to it that we all coexist naturally. A small request, whatever we are doing, let us try and begin not with an idea that we want to eliminate or kill X, Y, Z organism. Let us begin with an idea that we would want to be safe now and always in future. If that is the perspective, it will help us on a very, very important aspect of mental hygiene. So what I'm going to talk about now is something what I'm going to try and put it into a nutshell into 3 points. 3 points, if taken care of in any aspect of human life, should be able to take care of our safety. And those 3 points are: one is personal hygiene and personal immunity. The second is social hygiene and professional hygiene. And the third and a very, very important part is mental hygiene, which is something which a lot of us are a little bit skeptical with now. Now, on the personal immunity front, a small thing that we need to do is an opportunity that this entire time has given us to change our lifestyle. It is starting from sleep to sleep again in 24 hours. So it is sleep, it is food, it is exercise, it is breathing practices or pranayam, Ayurvedic and other associated alternative medicines. Now these are topics by itself, so we will not touch them today. But whatever we do many things have been repeated time and again, repeatedly again and again over the last few weeks' time on the media. But I will touch those things which are required to be delineated in more details. So as I come there, I will stop on those particular points and explain things in a little more detail so that we can understand actually what is happening and how it is happening and how should we handle that. On the front of the general rules that we have, we will start with a very, very simple thing, and that is the face and the face cover. It has been talked about multiple number of times. What we are going to do now is understand that we do not require a special kind of a face mask. What is a face cover or face mask? We need to cover only the nose and the mouth. That is from where we have a possibility of breathing in or pushing the air out. Any good 3-layer or a 4-layer covering is adequate. A combination of various fabrics can be used and has shown efficiency from 70 to 95%. So a good tightly knit cotton, silk, chiffon, and some other materials can be used, non-woven materials can be used. They are available ready-made, but a lot of things can be made at home which can be quite simple and cheap. People use eye shields, but they are not required for a common man. They are required only when you expect the droplets to be splattered upon you. If that splattering is happening, only in that scenario, you have to think of an eye shield. But if your workplace is where you do not look at fluid being sprinkled on you, it does not have much application. Specialized masks like N95 or other masks, we have to leave it for people who are in high risk. That is healthcare workers or people who are taking care of sick patients, otherwise no. Now I want to show you something which is very, very simple. And that is something which I would want you to pay attention to. I would wish that you understand this very, very simple. This is a face mask. An important thing about face mask that we all have to learn is when we open a face mask, how are you supposed to touch that? You need to first clean your hands. Ideally speaking, if you're at home, we will see to it that we have washed our hands with soap and water. If you're outside, then we would have used a very classic sanitizer. I will explain to you which are approved sanitizers later on. And then we will use a face mask. When we touch a face mask with clean hands, we cut it, and then when we use a face mask, the face mask will have upper end and lower end. If we look at these, there is a metal tip which is a strip which is fitted inside, and that is the upper part. These are the two upper strings on which you can hold a face mask, and these are the lower strings which can be tied. So usually whenever you're supposed to wear a mask, never ever touch the mask after tying. Only the strings which are to be tied, we have to use that. And you will first tie the upper thread always. You will hold the lower thread and tie the lower thread. And the last thing after wearing a mask is you will put your clips on the nose to conform it to the nose, so that even if I am speaking with a spectacle, the fogging is minimal. The practice of touching the mask afterwards to readjust, to speak, to eat, to try and scratch or adjust the spectacle has to be avoided. Once you wear a mask, the hands do not have to come in that area at all. It is important that you do not touch a mask, otherwise the mask itself becomes a fomite, and where a hand touches and touches again something else will transfer the organisms. So the technique of wearing a mask is important. The technique of removing the mask also is very important. When I have to remove the mask, I will release the lower threads of the mask first and leave them. I will release the upper threads of the mask and hold it in my hand. And then together it comes off. And I do not touch the mask again, and it goes into the bin. This is an important part for us to understand. If we do not take care of it, then whatever mask we wear, we always will put ourselves into danger. So we are not supposed to do that at all. If you have a mask with ear bands, you will have both the ear bands together, put them on the ear, same instructions of not touching the mask, and when you remove it also, both the ears together and then remove them out and discard them. If they are washable, then you put it in the washing bin, but do not touch the main mask ever. If in case you have to put it into a box, then the box into which you have put your mask for reusing will have to be disinfected or washed outside with soap and water. And not touching your face area is an important thing which you should not forget after wearing a mask. By chance, if it happens that you touch your face area, then washing your hands with soap and water is very important. The technique is very simple. Lots of videos are there, but I will just show you the basic areas which need to be cleaned. The front of the hands, the back of the hands, the intertriginous spaces of both the hands, the thumb area, the fingertips, and the exposed part of the hand from the wrist up to the elbow, whatever is open. This have to be rubbed, and the total contact time should be 30 seconds or longer. 20 seconds is what is propagated, but to my mind, this takes nothing less than 30 seconds of soap contact time, just not the total time. After the soap has been applied on the skin, 30 seconds time of contact is something which will always help us. One very, very simple thing which people forget. If you use so much of soap and water or so much of alcoholic sanitizer, we forget to moisturize our skin. If the skin is not moisturized, after some time, the skin will start disintegrating and showing certain issues. So simple thing is we need to have some sort of moisturizing unit, definitely. It can be simple thing like coconut oil or can be a moisturizer. But once we use that, we have to remember that all those things which we have used for washing our hands, inclusive of the soap bottle, we have to wash with soap and water to disinfect that and avoid that being a fomite again. The other thing which is there is maintaining social distance. Maintaining social distance has been propagated too much. Maintaining 2 meters or 3 meters so that you do not come in the direct firing range of somebody coughing and sneezing is good. But there are three kinds of airway transmission. One is by large droplets, one is by very, very tiny micro droplets, and the third is by direct contact. The 2 to 3 meters distance is for large droplets. In case if we are in an environment where we have an air-conditioned environment, and there are micro droplets which do happen by sneezing, then the currents of the air conditioner are going to take those micro droplets and circulate it within the entire room. If I say that there's 1,000 square feet area which is there, it takes about between 10 to 12 minutes for the whole environment to be loaded with the viral distribution. We also have to understand that a social distance is not only between human beings, like handshakes and hugs and kisses or not sharing the drink or the meal, even cigarettes. It's important that we have seen a few anecdotal reports of the virus being transmitted through pet animals. It is transmitted to the pet animal for sure, both the feline species as well as the dogs. Even the tigers have been infected. So especially if we are not aware of the animal's origin, strays or unknown owner, it is best not to get into the contact areas at all. In the coming season, in 15-20 days time, in the city of Bombay, we are likely to see a lot of waterlogged areas. Despite everything that we have done, we will also see that there are people who are going to spit or who will have infected elements which are discarded in the waterlogged areas. So try and avoid waterlogged areas in monsoon, especially the water splashes by people driving at zooming speeds. A mention regarding Arogya Setu app. I'm not going into details about the safety and the security and the other details, but only thing is there is one common link that we have. The Setu links everybody is moving who is moving in the environment, and using certain parameters tells us if ever we cross that 2 or 3 meter safety zone and went near somebody who had a higher chance of transmitting the infection, which will be shown as green, orange, or red parameter. We may have some compromise with the security and privacy, but we may also have some safety from the virus. So we take care of this aspect also. I would say that a step forward we would do in practicing what we call as universal precautions. In medicine, we think that we and others, they are all transmitters. So you take all possible precautions to prevent exchange of any kind of biological material between the two people. As I explained to you, fine droplets or aerosol, big droplets or direct contact transmission by phlebotomies. So trust and take care, as what we discussed before, to try and see that you are covered by a face mask, the other people around you are covered by the face mask, you do not touch any unknown places or commonly touched places. And also, in case if you are in an environment where more people are there, then maintain a safe distance. Connecting to people with very much respectful, careful, and precautious fashion is important. We have to see to it that other people, even if they are infected, they are also human beings. Their mentation and our mentation sometimes can clash. If we avoid that, our mental hygiene and their mental hygiene both can be respected. As we start the process of leaving homes for work, going to office, using transport, there are certain norms that will help us to save. We remain in a very, very safe, environment friendly fashion. What all things I can think of? Before leaving home, I will decide that I will have minimum number of things on myself. And this includes everything from caps to spectacle boxes, to pens, to clothings, to belts. And we will specifically take care of those things which we do not clean or wash regularly. These are ties, coats, watches, belts, purses. Like a watch has a possibility that we have our mobile phones giving us the time. If we take care of these things, then the chances of us transmitting infection or getting it back into our homes can be minimized, because we have to take care of only those number of things that we had taken out and could have touched something which we will have to disinfect when we come back from outside. So you will use optimal number of clothing and accessories. Footwear. People think that whatever kind of footwear I wear, how does it matter? We would not want our body to be splattered by an infected element somebody has put in. So we use specifically a closed-toe footwear. If it is washable, great. Even if it is not washable, it is cleanable and wipeable with a wipe, it is fine. But you will always remove the footwear outside home. The soles of the footwear are never cleaned as well. If we have stepped on something infected, is best left outside home or at the entry point in home on racks. And we will also not touch commonly touched surfaces anywhere, whether it is our home, our offices, buses, trains, surfaces of car handles, anything. All the loose articles that we have, when we come back, we will put in a separate tray. Now, a recommendation is that if this is a copper tray, the chances of the live organism being alive in contact with copper is only for 4 hours. So leaving anything in a copper tray is always preferred. All other material can have viral survival between 2 days to 7 days. So copper tray by itself would be a great help and can be done by self, entering the home and leaving all the loose articles there, where you can disinfect it with whatever we require. We can soak our clothes by our own selves in a bucket which is made ready with soap and water. And then it can go into a washing machine afterwards. One who has come from outside will always take a bath with soap and water after arriving home. And these instructions have to be ingrained in every single family member's mind. whether it is friend, whether it is a family member, whether it is an office colleague, is a co-worker, he's a subordinate, senior, junior, people working at our homes for ourselves, an ironman, a maid, a servant, somebody coming to take care of our elderly people at home, it will be very, very, very useful. Everything that we have talked about. There is nothing different. The virus does not differentiate between a prime minister and the PM. If we understand it, then we'll be very, very safe. Now, I'm going to talk about some places of aggregation where people are likely to gather and where we need to be a little bit extra protective for susceptible people, whether it's from family, colleagues, general population, everybody. And we have to be aware of our health and everybody else's health and family health. There is a limitation to screening by the infrared gun that is being used because it is only at one arm's length. We go very close to the other person. The fever comes only on the 7th or the 8th day. So a person who is active can be actually a transmitter. So personally speaking, I am not in favor of fever monitoring, but as per guidelines, you may require to do it, but the person who's doing it is at a higher risk and should always be in a personal protective equipment. We need to see to it that in an environmental world, health of our colleagues is very important. If there is somebody who has an influenza-like illness, there should be an official provision of leave for him so that he can safely be at home and people at office also will be home. We will have to be constantly vigilant about our environments, and in environments where we have more people, we will have physical markings which are 2 meters apart. There will be separation in batches for workplaces. It can be staggering of duties. It can be separation by areas. The entry port into a working facility and the exit port can be separate. There will be protocols in place, SOPs. There will be mock drills, especially for emergency situations. We saw an earthquake hitting our capital. We saw the eastern coast being hit by Amphan, the massive winds coming in. So at these times, if we have SOPs and protocols, for smaller places at least, like buildings or offices, we will have safety from the natural calamity as well as we will be able to protect ourselves from congregations. These I can go in detail later on, by itself they are a topic. For attendance marking, the biometrics have to be avoided. No finger touch at all. Iris scanners, face scanners, voice scanners, app-based attendance can be taken care of. If something else is to be practiced by distance, by somebody else, it's fine, but no contact on a particular area with multiple people. Disinfecting passages, cabins, shower areas, dress changes, fine. In offices, there can be a provision where a person comes in, changes his clothes, either there is a facility of taking a shower or at least washing the hands, the face and the legs, changing over into a different suit and going in, especially big factories, would be useful. One warning here, I have been seeing a lot of people being sprayed by chemicals. There are a variety of chemicals which are being used for disinfection, from hypochlorites on one end to quaternary ammonium compounds to some kind of alcohols, but none of these are 100% safe if sprayed continuously on your skin, in your eyes, you inhale them. So this I would warn a little bit carefully about. I would think about it and see to it that if somebody has to do it, there has got to be a certain set of SOPs and protocols, and people need to be monitored. If there is any chance of anybody developing any irritation, then we may have to discontinue that, and that person may need special attendance. Non-touch hand wash stations, which are either foot operated or infrared operated, are welcome. Little time may be taken to get facilities up and running, but can be done. One warning again, repeated use of gloves. People wear gloves and then they feel that they are immune to infection. That is not so. They will wear a glove and they will touch their face, they will touch some other areas, they will open the door, they will touch something else and then use that glove which has become a formite and keep touching multiple places. So glove, to my mind, is not something which should be used. In fact, I would encourage that in case if you have to touch multiple places, then either disinfect your hand with a disinfectant or go and wash your hands with soap and water and then humidify. Standard hand wash technique, is shown. If somebody requires, I can always send a link. Industrial personnel may require a protective gear which is using, and he needs to reuse it again and again. And there are a variety of these which are in place. It can be cleaned and disinfected on a regular basis. Again, each industry, as per requirement, will maintain the disinfection protocol. Physical gathering in the workplaces has to be avoided. Variety of diagonal sitting arrangements or video conferencing can be managed. Air-conditioned spaces, again, as I mentioned earlier, have to be avoided. If there is cross-ventilation, which takes away the entire viral load out of the room, it is much, much, much more important. High contact surfaces can be mopped and disinfected. Furnitures can be disinfected, specifically which is personal use furniture, and applications like chair, personal computer, stationery, mugs, glasses, food boxes. The person who is using it, let him be responsible to keep it clean and disinfected. So, foot operated, elbow operated, automated, arm operated devices in common areas like doors and taps are very, very useful. A lot of offices will have a lot of inward material coming in or outward material going out. They will have to clean and disinfect the entire vehicle if it is coming inside or a box. There can be a separate quarantine area which can be marked where material is left over there for 24 hours after disinfection and only then accessed. There has to be a PPE glove mask used by the people handling it, and the storage has always got to be in a sealed container away from the wall, with space in between, so can be disinfected again if required. Same happens to courier, post and parcels. Intra-office material transfer also should be minimized. Whatever is required needs to be cleaned and disinfected in specific transport carts, which are disinfected repeatedly with a log if required, and all the contact surfaces of these things taken care of. Minimize the visitor traffic to the office area. Use Aarogya Setu app as we talked about. Again, in office areas, in my personal experience, I've used either Ayurveda or homeopathic practices and have been very useful. We can share it later on if required. A note regarding disinfection that we are talking about. The disinfection usually, commonly what we use is sodium hypochlorite or alcohol or ultraviolet C. Now each of them have got uses and have got abusive power. So we need to be careful, and some indications regarding their safe use. One, we will have to always clean the material which has to be disinfected. Before cleaning, if there is dirt on a particular surface, neither the ultraviolet right in the C bandwidth, nor the alcohol, nor the chlorine will be effective in disinfecting the material. So we have to see to it that the product that needs to be disinfected has to be cleaned first. In workplaces, very, very important is wherever we are going to use liquids or alcohol, we have to take care of electrical safety, fire safety, explosion risk, moving parts which are there, which can be dangerous to the applicant or other workers. And only then, depending on the manufacturer's instructions, we will use a disinfectant or we'll use a sanitizer. Disinfectant at some places where it is sprayed needs to be wiped out from surfaces. Otherwise, it can either corrode or leave residues over there and may generate a problem later on, especially with certain moving parts. Certain chemicals do not have to be mixed, specifically where peroxide is used. Some people tend to mix vinegar, which becomes a very, very caustic substance for the eyes and the skin. So the new combination can be dangerous, and we have got to be very, very careful. One very simple thing which I mentioned as a cursory thing when I began my talk. There should not be indiscriminate disinfection. As we said, that our biome, our biological existence on Earth is balanced by a very large flora and fauna. And these are microbial flora and fauna from the viruses and bacteria up to huge trees and animals of variety of kinds and birds. And each of them is required to balance the environment. If we keep on disinfecting an environment once, twice, thrice, 10 times, 100 times, we will eliminate the friendly flora and fauna, which is required for our existence. And we will be flooded by those who are resistant to the chemical. We have a dangerous potential for all life forms who are coming there, inclusive of human beings. And the diseases, in case if we get by these organisms, will be untreatable. We are seeing antibiotic resistance. This is one indiscriminate use of an antimicrobial drug. So caring for the friendly microbe, using disinfection sparingly where required, repeated cleaning, and replenishing the friendly microbes. It's an important thing, allowing them spontaneous recolonizations where we as human beings live. How do we do it? Simple things. Our air, common air which is coming from our open windows, with good amount of sunlight, all those harmful organisms are eliminated by sunlight. Water, the tap water, not distilled water. It contains, a clean tap water contains enough organisms to repopulate the flora. People who are healthy, moving in and out, their body contains a huge microbial load. That is at times welcome. Even sometimes our pet animals who are clean. So all kinds of movements in common spaces. We visiting common spaces like open parks when it is allowed is something which will recolonize our bacterium. So that is all going to help us on the long time to recolonize our cells. Our 1 billion cells have 90 billion microorganisms in our body. The same happens in the environment around. So we are able to balance it and manage it very well, not indiscriminately disinfecting the environment will help us to remain healthy. So disinfection frequency, how do we decide? It is not a rule. It is going to be different from home, different from work environmentally. I'm working in a microbiological lab. Yes, I will need to do it daily. I'm working at home. I can do it once in 10 days, once in 15 days, or once in a month, depending on how many people I'm getting from outside. So we'll have to analyze that depending on particular facility and then decide how to keep an area disinfected, at the same time adequately populated by friendly microbes and the other life forms. Now, a mention regarding a different environment. We have respiratory precautions we have talked about, but we do not forget that these viruses have been shown to exist in the inner areas coming out through feces and through body fluids. So we have to see to it that the fecal-oral mode of transmission does not prevail. If there is an infected person, the feces and urine have to be cleaned properly and the area disinfected. Same, if there's an injury to a person who is infected and the body fluid like blood or his vomitus comes and makes an area contaminated, has to be cleaned with all the protective equipment and disinfected very well. Again, the way we take care will differ from urban environment like Bombay, which we are very dense, and that is exactly why we are seeing the explosion of cases, versus rural areas which are sparse and spread apart. There, it is easy for them to practice norms and living with nature and recolonizing the microbial flora. So if they are careful, they will be able to come back to normal life much more easily. Same is for wild nature. We do not invite the wild nature into our environment and we do not encroach into their environment, and then we will not invite more diseases. Clean air, food and water cannot be stressed more. Transportation is very, very important for us. And now I'm going to just come to a very small point regarding transportation. I am getting out of my house. My building has been cleaned and sanitized. I am not touching any of the commonly touched surfaces. I go to the elevator. I've got some toothpicks or towel pocket tissue pieces. I have used those to activate the button. Or I have got a sanitizer outside my elevator. I have cleaned my hands and then only I touch the commonly used buttons. And I go down and I don't touch anywhere, or I use only the staircases and go down or up to my house. And then I'm going to board some transport mode. It can be a bicycle, it can be a motorbike, can be a privately owned car, can be bus, can be train, can be flights, anything. Things that we need to be aware about over here is what are the commonly touched surfaces? The handles, the windscreen operators, the steering wheels, the gearboxes, closeness to the other person who is taking care of our driving needs, our chauffeur, or the gentleman who's driving us in a cab, or co-passengers in a bus. If we maintain safe distance from these people, if we are able to take care of not touching the commonly touched surfaces and they take care of the cleansing process, then we'll be safe in the transportation areas. And yes, we will still be with masks and all the precautions that we talked about. We need to be focused about our environment and equipment cleanliness, specifically for the frequently touched surfaces. Wherever we go, whether we are at home, we are being transported from point A to point B, work, play, recreation, just pleasure, anything. And the thing again, for cleaning, we will be using plenty of water just for hand washing. If we keep our taps open always, when we are washing hands, in those 30 seconds, we can lose anywhere from 20 to 30 liters of water depending on the tap ability to disperse water. So we have to be careful and learn how to use our elbows with the long extensions of our tap controllers and conserve the water, use it only when we need it, or we use automatically operated water taps, and we need to also learn how to recycle the water. Otherwise, by next summer or even in this summer, we might have a lot of issue with water. Rainwater harvesting, again, is going to be another useful tool for us. We need to do that. So we talked about the home, the building, and the society. We have to also look at certain regular domestic essential services. I'll give an example of vegetables. And people get vegetables. How do they get it? I've seen people taking bags. I would say that take a bucket, what is easily washable. Whatever we have picked up, you have gone with a mask and whatever protective wear you want, pick up and put all the vegetables there. Once you come inside home, at a designated place, spread the vegetables and disinfect them. There are two ways of doing it. One is sodium hypochlorite solution 0.1%, that is 10 grams of bleaching powder in a liter of water. Dilute it, mix it, put it in a sprayer and spray all the vegetables. You are masked, you have a glove on hand. Leave it for 2 hours. After 2 hours, soak it in 1 hour into ordinary water, clean it and take it for use. If you have plastic sealed bags, then we can wash it with soap and water, but they have to be sealed properly. The water does not have to seep inside. You saw me touching my spectacle. That's a bad habit and we should not do that. It's a habit. We have to evolve out of that. When we are talking about the other things that we would do domestically essential, I would try to mention one more thing. The bhajis that we use, the leafy vegetables, it's a challenge. Again, we need the same kind of spraying, putting into water, but it requires 3, 4, 5 water changes. And it's a 4 or 5 hours job. So we need to be very careful regarding what we want, for how many days we want it, and then ask for these things. Can you use something else instead of sodium hypochlorite? Yes, we can use it. What can we use? We can use super saturated or hyper saturated saline solution. Common salt, take water, keep putting salt inside and stir it till a point that you cannot add more salt inside, which can dissolve. This super saturated solution can be used to dip anything inside. In about 10 minutes time, it becomes null of all kind of life forms. Only thing is, if your vegetable has a cut or a fruit has a cut and the salt water gets inside, the salty taste will be an additional flavor that you'll get to your food. People have been advocating use of soda, baking soda, but that is pH dependent. It does not have a direct effect on the live organisms. So primarily, I don't advocate that. Can be used as an addendum, not primarily at all. Places of study, it is school, it is colleges, it is libraries, it can be universities, will have the same thing. The only thing is density of people being there is going to be much more higher. It is place of study, it can be place of work, which is in a factory or an office. We have to look at what is the population density with respect to time. Giving you a simple example, in an office area, there is a pav vada wala who's sitting on the footpath outside. From morning 8 to 9 before the office begins, people have breakfast there. So there'll be 100 people in 1 hour's time. And there is another fellow Pavodawala who's sitting in a residential area. In the whole day, he will have 100 people, but who are spared, they are distributed across the whole day. So we will have to try and look at every situation logically on the roads, at home, at workplace, outside workplace, and avoid high population density areas, or try and generate that kind of environment whereby these high population density areas are segregated. The Pavodawala can set up 10 stalls. We give them 5 tables or 10 tables. And his distribution is separated across the 10 tables. So anybody coming there is safe. And people are in queue, not getting near each other. He is safe and we are safe. The same happens for places of recreations. We have two kinds of recreation areas. Enclosed, I would say we don't go anywhere. Whether it's a theater, whether it's a play area, whether it is going to be a closed environment, which is a gym, place of exercise, no. Open areas, yes. In some time, I think it is important that we start visiting open areas with safe distancing and all other protocols. It will help us to try and balance our microbes. We will have to again look at the population density. On certain days, say Friday, Saturday, Sunday evenings, certain areas are populated densely. We don't go there. We'll have to try and work around our daily schedules accordingly. We also will have to work around for shoppings. Sorry, but this is for our ladies. People who really are interested in shopping just for the heck of it. We'll have to try and minimize our urge to shop. When we want it, I would say that there are certain places who might come with appointment schedule. We go by appointment, so in a shop at a time, there are a fixed number of people. For essentials, for non-essentials, open area shops will become much more, open area markets may be much more safer, especially if they have been designed properly. Enclosed markets, we would try and avoid. Traveling, domestic traveling, using buses, using trains, using aircrafts is going to be a challenge. In fact, recently I was looking at the domestic travel which is beginning tomorrow. Everything else is maintained up to the aircraft. Inside the aircraft, all the seats are going to be used. And there are n number of explanations being given there. But in a closed environment with air conditioning being on, if I'm asked to travel by air, I would say, sorry, I would not want to travel. If I have to travel, best use, I will use my car. My driver is a long car. My driver sits in the front. I put him in a separate cabin. There's no direct sneezing. His air conditioner is separated out. And I'm out at the last seat and we are traveling together. 1 plus 2. It's fine and safe. I would take longer time. I'll take 2 halts in the night. But that makes my life much more easier and simpler. This in a nutshell gives us roughly how can we live safely in an environment which is going to be something which we are likely to encounter day in and day out. If we would want to put some questions, I had requested people to put it in chat, and if there are any specific scenarios, I will try and see how much can I try and address it as a common question. In case if I am not able to, then I'm going to put this up on YouTube tomorrow. There was a Facebook live telecast which also will be already there on my this thing. I don't use much of Facebook, so don't expect me to respond on the Facebook. But yes, they will be there. Tomorrow, most likely, we will try and put it on Facebook. Individual questions, I may not be able to answer it immediately, but something which is common, I'm going to look at it now and try and answer. Just give me a moment. I'm going to go through the questions which have been put up. Okay, somebody is asking me regarding designing of the new living and workplace. I think it is very, very specific regarding the environment disinfection. Regarding disinfection of environment, essential to shower with each outing person has made. Yes, I'm going to tell some very, very specific thing. Yes, everybody who is going out has to shower, definitely. No questions about it. Disinfect the environment is important. As I told you, it has to be individualized environment. We have to look at it that a particular thing has got a particular amount of footfall. And if the more people are coming from outside, we will have to try and see to it that area is disinfected at a particular place. Number of people, number of outings will decide how frequently we do that. Somebody asked me regarding baked items, whether baked items can be safely consumed. Now, we do not know. In the process of baking, when the temperature reaches high, you go near 70 degrees or higher, usually the virus is eliminated. But we are not very sure regarding who has packed it. The bag outside, which is sealed, we can easily disinfect by washing if it is sealed properly. But something which is inside, it is very, very difficult. So if you ask me, say I'm using a piece of bread for pav bhaji, I will see to it that I steam the bread at 100 degrees for at least 30 seconds. I can use it. Or I'm going to put it on a heating oven and make it as hot as possible for 30 to 60 seconds and then use it. So this is going to be something which will depend upon each particular environment, food stuff, and we'll decide. Carpooling, somebody is asking regarding carpooling. Carpooling is going to be a challenge. I don't think in law is going to allow us now. We will have to try and look at traveling alone or using bigger vehicles. I don't know how big we can use beyond Innova. Challenge. Somebody is asking whether if you have a separate cabin for employees, do they need to keep the mask? Yes, because you do not know who else has used the environment before or after you. I'm going to talk about a cabin, say, by myself, and my patient has come inside, has gone, and I have come after the patient who occupied the room before and was COVID positive. The air-conditioned environment will have those aerosols rotating there. And I go in over there, I can be in an environment which has got a viral load. If it is large enough, I'm exposed. If my immunity is good enough, I will have no problems. Regarding the normal offices, your peons who live in slum areas and come, it is something which is a challenge to all of us. So I would say yes, you have to use it. Steam inhalation is useful. It can be done at least twice in a day. In fact, I had shared one protocol, a part of it was there on Ayush Ministry also. It is something which is going to be very, very, very useful. So if you are able to look at that, I will share it again on some of the common platforms. If you look at that or even look at Ministry of Ayush guidelines, it tells us use of how to use it. Now, there's another question regarding how do you organize a caretaker for a sick relative. If we need somebody who needs to keep on visiting from outside, the chance of infection goes up. So here, there will be an option whereby what we need to look at is we look at the history of the person who's coming in the house, see to it that last 14 days there was nothing active, but also understand that they're going to come in contact with a sick person whose immunity is low. So if that person has not had any issues in the last 14 days period and we believe them, their Arogya Setu app is showing that they are green, then we can try and keep them in the house. But if possible, other people for the first 14 days remains outside and we request them to live with us. So this is going to be a challenge for us. Doesn't have a 100% answer. Somebody's factory is fully air conditioned. The air condition has some possibility on a higher end conditioned machine where they can draw air from outside. Usually maximum capacity for the routine air condition is 20% fresh air, 80% circulated air. If there is a possibility of increasing it and the number of room air exchanges per hour increases more than 12 times, the chances of the bacterium rotating in the air and infecting other people in the room are lower. So 6 to 12 times circulation of air change, we can ask the factory manufacturing the air condition and see what we can do. There's Dr. Mansoori is asking us that we have a doubt. If we use sanitizer on hand and they say it protects us from corona, then why can't we make an edible version of sanitizer? Sorry. It's a genuine question a lot of people are having, and I think Mr. Trump mentioned once that we can give IV disinfectants or sanitizers or oral. The content of the sanitizer which is there, that sanitizer is not healthy for human ingestion. So that is something which can be dangerous. Please do not ingest. Please do not allow it to come in contact with your mouth, nose or eyes, whether it is chlorine based, whether it is alcohol based. Somebody is asking me regarding the pulse oximeter. Pulse oximeter can detect infection, but you cannot disinfect it. If you're going to use it for a group of people, it detects infection fairly late in the entire history, when on the 10th or 11th day after infection, the person's oxygen saturation goes down. This disease is such whereby it works in a fashion that the oxygen saturation keeps on going down, but the carbon dioxide pushed out of the system does not go down, increase so much. So the body detects the drop in oxygen much more later. We have something else which is help at hand. We call it a single breath test. People who practice pranayam, their pranayam practice, they will understand what is the length of the pranayam exhalation that they have. If that length is not reduced by more than 10%, they are fine. On a single breath test, I take a deep breath and then I speak in that same breath 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and how much can I go? Everybody will have a particular number. It is not 15 final, 20, 25. But if I have a number, say 20, and if I drop to 16, I'm worried. Roughly 10 to 20% drop in my ability is going to be a challenge for me. Somebody is asking regarding senior citizens. Right now, people under 10 or people over 60, they need to be reverse quarantine, which means they remain at home even after other people move out. And when other people moving out come back to home, they will have to try and see to it that they remain away from people who are elderly or sick. Hot water is, yes, useful for keeping us safe. You can have the hot water the whole day. As per Ayurveda, your Jataragni becomes more potent. Pradiptata improves, and that improves immunity. Not only that, you need to change your entire lifestyle. Okay? Masks to be made at home. Somebody is asking me, I mentioned regarding the mask making at home. I'm going to make masks as such and give a design out, but simple thing is 3 or 4 layers mask, use cotton, enough. In case if you want an intervening material, some densely knit material that you have at home, we can use that. Dense knit chiffons are available, try it out. But professional mask, professionally, I don't think you're going to require it. How early and which test would initially confirm COVID? A very, very important thing for us to understand here is that COVID tests have never been standardized now. The standardization of a test, both for specificity and sensitivity, is something which requires a long time. They have not had time to do that. The sensitivity and specificity both move between 50% to 80-85% between different kind of test kits. So there is no 100% answer at all. What I would want to tell you is that in case if you are doubtful, then ask your doctor on phone. Never walk into any facility. If you want to go outside to any office or doctor's office or a hospital, call them, understand the protocol, go from that particular entry and follow what they tell you. They will evaluate you in what is called as a triage OPD and then tell us how is it that we can safely test you on 5th day after having symptoms, 10th day and 14th day. But these policies will keep changing. Somebody is asking regarding a person who is positive with SARS-CoV-2 virus and he cures, doing is safe. A person who has become corona positive, SARS-CoV-2 virus positive or COVID-19 positive, he may stop transmitting the virus by nose or mouth, but it is seen in some patients up to 6 weeks plus, they keep transmitting virus in stools. So yes, we can say he's safe from the respiratory angle, but not from the fecal route. That's why I told you it is very, very important that we look at all the modes of transmission and keep ourselves safe. The sanitary hygiene precautions, domestic help, exactly they are treated like what we are doing. So I would not say that there is any specifically different things. If they're living somewhere, then whatever we are doing, we do the same. They use a mask, they use a hand glove after coming inside house and after washing hands with soap and water. If there is possibility, they can take a shower. If they've had fever, then tell them not to come to the house to work for 14 days time of any kind. These are the basic things you can take care of it, but if in case there is doubt, then minimize the number of people. Some may have 3 or 4 people working around. Try and see that in the working area, there is only those number of people who can safely be away from each other. People are asking about homeopathic medicine. So one, I am not a homeopath. My wife is a homeopath and she is also a yoga practitioner. Only thing I can tell you about is there is something called genus epidemicus. In that, a person who's practicing in a particular geographical area, servicing a demographic population in a particular time, if he sees a volume of patients with similar symptoms, he comes to a particular conclusion in that environment at that time with that population, and that with his advice can be used as a drug. I would refuse to use anything which is given in Italy and Rome or US or some other country. Even in India, somebody uses in northern part a particular medicine and south something else is used. I would be skeptical. I would want somebody to analyze the patients in Bombay, in our entire environment, and tell us what is safe and what he thinks is the genus epidemicus, and then use it. Early symptoms, I think there are a lot of things people have talked about, so I'm not going to talk about that. We can share and see a lot of things. Lung exercise, pranayam is the best thing we can do. As a dental professional, what is it that we do? Okay, people who have close contacts, dental professionals, people who have ophthalmic practice, who come very close to the face, cosmetic surgeons on working on the face, whatever you do, you're going to get higher risk. But if you want to start work, it has to be full protocol PPE. Now this is a 3-layer protocol PPE where you have to use a cap, an N95 mask, and inner plastic wear, inner footwear. A whole PPE coverall kit you'll wear, because the N95 is not splash protection. You'll use a second mask, you'll use a second cap, you'll use a shield, and then work. It depends on your efficiency, how we can work in that. And after you finish, a very important part of PPE kit is people do not know how to doff the PPE kit. Donning or wearing the PPE kit is an art, and doffing is another art. In fact, I have trained my staff, but if somebody wants it, probably I could make a video or I could train people how to don and doff the PPE kits. So lung exercise, I told you about simple breathing pranayam practice. We can have a session on it in detail later on with Dr. Tejal, who is my wife. In fact, we have used a lot of time beyond, we use half an hour beyond our meeting. If I could request people to send me specific questions on my email, soulneuron@gmail.com. soulneuron@gmail.com. To the best of my ability, I will try and answer the questions within my knowledge. I hope that I have made myself very, very clear.